everybody? My name is Jacqui and welcome to the Fit Life podcast. Today is February 17th, and on this day, 35 years ago, I was born into the world. So it's my birthday. It's also family day. I think just in Canada, I don't think the United States celebrates Canada Day, but regardless, it's Canada Day. It's a holiday here. Um, my husband works holidays, so I did end up sending my kids to their like preschool lady that they go to, and it ended up being perfect because one of her kids is actually celebrating a birthday today, so they're actually celebrating his birthday all day long while they're there, but mommy also gets to celebrate birthday by having the house to herself. So it's kind of nice. I was like, my plan today was to like pump out some work that I need to do, but my husband is throwing me for a loop because he's coming home early today. So, which is nice, but was not what I expected. Anyways, we're pivoting, getting this podcast done. Another thing that I kind of had to pivot this month because my kids started a new like schedule where they go to their preschool and everything. Um, and I kind of decided that I'm actually going to release podcast episodes on a bi-weekly basis. So, in the name of juggling motherhood and business and children, it's just something that worked a little bit better for me. So, maybe not as consistently as I want to be releasing a podcast, but I think this will just like in also managing my own stress factors too. I just wanted to make sure I could do something in a way that was consistent and not worry about how frequent it was happening. So, just as in health and fitness, managing things in your life that need to be done can also be managed in like the same kind of frame of mind. It's whatever you can do on a consistent basis rather than trying to be perfect about it, right? So, obviously, it would be more optimal for me to release weekly episodes, but in this time in my life and in all the things that considerations of my life, this is something that's I think is going to work a little bit better. And I think I'll just come with more fresh ideas on a bi-weekly basis at this point as well. So that's where I'm at. I'm sorry, I'm playing with my hair a lot if you're watching me on video, just because it looks kind of funny to me right now. But anyways, um, so yeah, I'm 35 today, mid 30s. And it's so funny because like I remember being in my 20s and thinking that 30 was the end, like your 20s were your prime and those were supposed to be your best years and all of those things. And I'm in my mid 30s, and even in my early like even within the last couple of years I've realized that man, 30s is it. And I don't even think that 30s is it. I am actually looking forward to my 40s and 50s as well because I'm kind of just this whole new perspective on like your after you've put in the work of building like a foundation for your life, you get to see all of these other things kind of come to fruition because of that work that you put in. And I think that's really what your 20s is about. It's about discovering your place in the world and where you kind of fit in and what your values are. And you have to learn about who you are before you really establish a foundation for the life that you want. Like, how do you establish a life that you want without knowing who you are and what you want out of your life? And that's what your 20s is supposed to be about, is discovering that so that you can move forward in a healthy manner and find something that actually aligns with who you are as an individual and what your values are and what you want out of life, like what brings you purpose. Everybody is so different, and we have to discover those pieces of ourselves. And of course, like, I think on some level when you're a teenager you kind of know some of those things, but you don't have enough life experience to really know what those are or what that might look like for you. So that's what your 20s is actually about. And now I'm in my mid 30s and I'm seeing these pieces actually come to fruition. And I realize that, um, the work that I put into myself in my 20s and even in the last 5 years is really paying off in the sense that, like, I am living a life that is aligned with my values. And it might look different to some people and I might get judged for it. And, there might be some people who didn't make it along the way in terms of like who stayed in my life or who's still here. But at the end of the day, I'm going to bed at night happy with the decisions that I've made, feeling like I'm doing well in terms of balance and stress management, but also living some sort of purpose. And it's great. It's awesome. And my husband and I have this discussion all the time where like we know there's challenges. Like that's like I'm not saying my life is perfect like whatsoever because there's definitely challenges. But it's like the challenges that we almost chose, if that makes sense. Like we knew what the trade-offs were going to be, but we made the decisions in terms of like what trade-offs we felt were worthwhile. So that's what, and I think there's freedom in that, like there's freedom in knowing that you made this choice and that you knew what challenges were going to kind of come up, but it was your choice. Like it was a choice that you made and you were aware of before it happened. So there's freedom in that, and I love that for us. I love the flexibility that I have in terms of like what I'm able to do with my life and my business, but also balance it out with my kids and being there as a mom and all of those things. And I'm watching my kids grow up, and it's the best thing in the world. And I'm seeing these little beings become individuals and discover things that they like and things like that. And they're also at this age now where they're actually playing together and they're developing a relationship, and it's so cool to see. It's so nice to watch, and like to look over at my husband who I've been with for 10 years. Like we met when I was 25. We've come such a long way and we've created this life together, and it's just like it makes my heart so full. So anyways, obviously birthdays are, for a lot of people, or at least for me, it's a time of self-reflection, and I've been having a lot of that lately, and I've been really, I think there's that trend going around right now. Like I had coffee with my younger self, and man, I was making that reel and I posted it, and like even in the process of writing and like thinking back on who I was 15 years ago and what she would have done and what she would have thought, I like am living a life that I never thought that was possible for myself. I didn't know if it was going to happen. And obviously like you don't know what's going to happen when you're 20, and you're not even really sure what you do want, right? So um the idea of marriage and kids and stuff was always something that was appealing to me, but having been a kid that went through 5 divorces between my parents, I wasn't sure if I believed in marriage. I wasn't sure if like that was something that was truly in the cards for me. It was kind of like one of those like self-protective things where like I was like, well, it's just a piece of paper, or like is there even such thing as true love or whatever that is. And obviously as I've grown and I met my husband, like meeting the right people I think is a huge part, but also the decisions that you make and knowing that your relationship isn't just love, it is work, and it does require awareness, and it does require, making time for each other and stuff like that. It doesn't just happen. But I think that comes with age and wisdom, right? So I like 35 because I feel like you've lived a long enough like life where like people take you seriously, and you have a lot of wisdom and life experience, but you also like know what you don't know. And I know that there's going to be more life lessons, and I know that going, in another 10 years I'm going to be even wiser. And yeah, it just feels good to feel like I'm on the right path, and that the choices that I'm making truly align with who I am and like what I want out of my life and what I want from my out of my family's life and stuff like that too. So it's kind of cool to like reflect on that. And the other thing too is like, you know, obviously to a 20-year-old, 35 sounds old. And here I am in my 30s, and I'm already like going gray and things like that. And I knew that was going to happen. That's like in my genes. My grandmother went, I think both of my grandmothers went gray early. My mom went gray early. But one thing that I'm doing a little bit differently is that I'm just kind of going with it. So you can't see in the camera, and I don't have like enough gray hair right now to like truly be able to see unless like you were like really up close to me. Um but I was like, I watched my one grandma and my mom, right within like 5 years of each other, both of them decided to grow out their gray hair. And it was such a process for that to watch them do that, because you like, especially if you are completely gray underneath like dyed hair, as it grows out it has that kind of like skunky look, right? Like it's just like all white along your roots, and then as it grows out, like that's all you can see is like so anyway, it takes a lot of work and a lot of money to like go to your hairstylist and get low lights and like help blend it in and all these things. So by watching that and knowing that's probably in my future, one of the things that I wanted to do with my hairstylist this past time that I got my hair done was I'm like, don't do my roots. Like, I do have still like a pretty rich dark brown color. I like getting balayage. Like, I like doing like some highlights and stuff like that. But instead of doing like a root touch up and then the balayage, how about we just use the balayage to kind of blend in my gray roots for now as they grow out. So it's just kind of like some empowerment in that too, right? Like there at first, like as I was seeing more and more gray hairs last year, it was one of those like, oh, like I gotta dye my hair again. Oh, I gotta dye my hair again. But at the same time, it's like, you know what? This is what my hair is doing. And I've kind of come to terms with it and being like, you know what? It's just my hair. Like it's just doing its thing. It's in my genes that I'm going to get gray hair. Eventually, I'm probably going to be fully gray. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just we have this societal belief that we need to maintain our youth for as long as possible. But at the same time, I don't think people realize what a privilege it is to get old. Like become old and gray and to live life to the extent that we as humans can live life now is incredibly privileged. And just having like been through some experiences where I've seen people die young or anything like that, like it just opens up your eyes to the fact that like to go gray is such an underrated like privilege to be able to experience. And yet in this society it's like frowned upon because you look old when you're gray. But like what is wrong with being old? You know? So, anyways, I know I'm still young and I'm having gray hairs, but that's fine. My mom has her hair grown out and I think it looks beautiful. And I do think that there is a lot of empowerment in embracing your natural beauty and all of these things, right? I'm in this funny place where, like, you know, Botox is glorified, makeup is glorified, doing your hair, all the youthful kinds of things. But there's certain things that do not appeal to me for various reasons, and it's not that I'm against them, it's just that for myself I don't love it. I don't love the idea of putting things into my body that I can't get out, and that also have like some sort of level of risk to it depending on like how your body reacts, right? um I believe in taking care of yourself. I believe in like I want to hydrate my skin. Like if I can reduce the look of wrinkles and things like that, like yeah, of course. Like I would love to do that. And I know that staying hydrated and like using like moisturizer and like doing like a good skincare routine is also really beneficial and just makes you feel good too, right? But also like having it's kind of like your relationship with food and your relationship with your body, right? Like you can feel good in makeup, but when you rely on makeup or you don't, or it's to the point where like you don't feel good going without makeup, then I think that's a kind of a problem, right? Like that's kind of a self-esteem issue where I'm at this really funny, like it's not a funny stage, but like it's kind of a cool stage to be in, to be able to like have the confidence to go sans makeup. Like I don't have any makeup on now, but I like wearing makeup because I feel nice wearing makeup. Same with my hair. Like I can go without doing my hair, but I like to do my hair because I feel good about when my hair is done. And it also just feels a lot more manageable to me. But there's a difference between like feeling like you look, feeling like you can't go anywhere or you're not confident when you're not doing those things versus like you just kind of feel a little bit more elevated when you are doing those things. So I think there's some like exploration that's worthwhile there when it comes to your relationship with how you feel when you are without those things versus when you are with those things. Because when we're relying on those things for our self confidence, are we truly self confident? Like I think that's worthwhile to kind of explore. Anyways, the Fit Life podcast, talking about beauty and like all the things that come with like the standards of being a woman in this state in society. Um, but when you can kind of like live outside of those standards and kind of like have a good like inner peace with yourself regardless of what you look like, I think that's valuable for sure. Anyways, I did want to come on here and talk about how I personally coach myself. And I'm not coming out like and being like, you know, what's I'm losing my train of thought. I'm not coming on here to say that in a way of like, uh, you know, this is what you need to do, but in the perspective of the fact that even if you have a coach right now, at some point you have to learn to be without your coach, right? Like your coach is here to teach you about certain things and um give you direction and give you support and all of those things. But at some point you're going to be without your coach. So, how do you look at yourself and how do you self evaluate when you don't have someone who's there to tell you about these things? So, this is the process that I kind of take myself through. I don't currently have a coach. Some coaches will say that's a red flag. If you have a coach who doesn't have a coach, I think that's kind of bullshit. Like, it's not that and I think I get where they're coming from with that, like, they're it's that kind of saying of, like, you want a coach that's constantly learning, right? And in order to do that, you need a coach or you need, like, something else. I am also I'm constantly learning, and I listen to podcasts, I learn, and I think there's a lot of ways to learn without having a coach, and I'm saying that as a coach, like, there's a lot of ways to learn, and of course, like, having a coach is a more direct way to learn. It's definitely going to save you some time. But also, I've had a coach and I was with her for 3 years. Like I learned a lot from her and now I'm a coach myself. So I feel I have the foundation, I have the knowledge to self coach myself successfully. And I've proven that time and time again. And when I'm ready to have more specific goals, I'm not opposed to hiring a coach. And actually, like, I do have a coach, not a fitness coach. I have a business coach because I learn from them um, a lot. And I actually learn a lot of fitness aspects from them too, because it's a pair of guys who are also fitness coaches. So there's a lot, like, there's so many ways to learn without having a coach. But yes, currently I don't have a personal coach besides my business coaches. And again, like, there are fitness elements to that. But for my own fitness goals, I don't have a coach for that. I manage that on my own. Sorry, just needed a sip of coffee for that one. So yeah, so as of right now, I coach myself. I do my training programs depending on whatever my goals are and all of those things. But in the times that things are feeling a bit sticky, which is how I've been feeling for about the past month. And I think a lot of people are still in this like the same stage as I am as well, where things are just feeling like extra hard. So, when it comes to like a self evaluation, I do think there's obviously a lot of benefit from hiring a coach so that you are able to apply this yourself down the road because you're able to kind of see how they can talk you through this. Um, and a lot of this comes down to, honestly, it comes down to being honest with yourself and being accountable with yourself and knowing how to call yourself out on stuff and also to be able to see the difference between your behaviors and how you feel and how you've been executing. So there's a lot of times where we might feel like we're executing in the way that we are in the way that we need to, but we're not actually not. So understanding and collecting objective information is really really helpful for that. So I know that there's a lot of like noise around like being obsessed if you're tracking your food or being obsessed if you're constantly tracking steps and stuff like that. But if you can use that as a tool to collect your objective information, even if it's just for an audit for a couple of weeks, it's really, really helpful and eye opening to use that to see where you're actually at. So, if you're not seeing progress and you think that you're doing all the things right and all of that stuff, knowing how to audit from an objective perspective is really really crucial and really helpful to kind of just like make sure you're actually at where you think you need to be. um the thing is, so if you're new to like research or how I'm talking to, so objective information is information that has no room for interpretation. I mean, it does, but it's straightforward. It's factual. That's what objective information is. It's from a factual perspective. So it's the collection of information such as, how many calories are you eating, how much protein, how much fiber are you getting, based on like how you're tracking and assuming that you're tracking accurately and all of those things. Objective information is also things like how many hours of sleep did you get, how many steps did you get, like things like that, because that is all collective information that is collected through like some sort of system, and just gives you an idea of what is happening and how much you're doing and where you're at in the threshold of where you should be, kind of thing. So that's something that I use on myself, is to know that, like, okay, if I'm not getting the results that I want, what am I doing? Am I slipping up somewhere, or am I not executing the behaviors that I need to execute? Now, the thing is too, like, I've had enough experience doing this that I don't even need to look at my objective information to know what I'm not doing or what I need to do more of, because I know myself enough well enough to know that I already know what I'm not doing. I already know what I'm not showing up, that, or where I can improve on, or what I need to do. Um so a lot of the times, like, so as of right now, I'm not feeling my best. I'm not feeling like I'm getting my workouts in enough. I'm not feeling like I'm feeling my best self, like mentally and emotionally, kind of thing. So this is how I would like assess my situation. So as of right now, one of the first things that I would assess in anybody is how well they're sleeping. So are you going to bed at a decent time? Are you getting good quality of sleep? Are you getting interrupted sleep, or are you sleeping through the night? Those things like that. There have been, so as of last week, I was getting quite a lot of interrupted sleep. Like, it was either one of the other of my kids that would be up in the middle of the night or whatever it is. And then also my caveat with that is that when they're back to sleep after I've been up with them, I have a lot of trouble getting back to sleep after that. Like, once I'm awake, I'm awake. Um, so it'll be like 2 o'clock in the morning and I'm just having trouble getting back to sleep. So that was messing with me a lot, and then kind of snowballing into other things throughout the day, knowing that that happened. And I was letting myself kind of like fall victim to it, so to speak. So wasn't getting enough sleep, didn't feel great about it, letting that kind of impact how much movement I was getting or whether I would work out or anything like that, and those kinds of things. And then because I wasn't doing those things, it felt good, and it was a huge dopamine hit to eat things that just tasted good and maybe didn't necessarily align with my goals or the nutritional value that I know that I should get. Um so there's that piece, right? Like, understanding how quantity and sleep quantity and quality affect how the rest of your day is going to be. And this is actually like something that we need to pay attention to, especially as we get older, especially in menopausal women, because a lot of people don't realize how much their sleep actually impacts their behaviors. And I'm aware of how my behaviors are being impacted by my sleep, and by my mistake, and the thing that I've been doing too much of, is letting that sleep impact my decisions throughout the day. When you're having a good amount of sleep and you wake up feeling refreshed, you're going to make it's a lot easier to make better decisions throughout the day, right? If you're having shitty sleep, it's so much harder. It just makes everything harder. Everything's harder. But to make the decisions that you need to make that align with your goals and align with like the nutrition that you know will make you feel better and all of those things, it's so much harder to make those decisions when you are tired, when you feel like crap because you didn't get a good enough sleep. And this is what we see a lot of in menopausal women, is that with their hormones and stuff like that, they're not getting good quality of sleep. And it actually impacts their behavior throughout the day. You're eating more because you need more energy. Your body's looking for more food. Your hunger cues are a little bit off because of like the lack of sleep that you've been getting, or the lack of quality of sleep you've been getting. So you're probably eating more than you think that you're eating. You're probably moving less than you think that you're moving. And that is the menopausal weight gain that we see in a lot of women. It's just that the things that are happening in your body that are affecting your hormones and affecting other things that you can't quite control are now snowballing into the things that you actually have control over. And that is what is contributing to your weight gain. So, anyways, just a little side note there. Um, so that was kind of what I was allowing to happen. Now, over the weekend, I started sleeping like 9 hours, 9 to 10 hours a night. My husband was home. I think there was some like element there of like he was getting up with my son, so I would just kind of sleep. And and then like I was sleeping, so we were going to bed. So this is okay. So I guess back up for a second. Every night we go to bed at 8 o'clock. And I know that sounds early, but my husband gets up at, he has to leave the house by 4 o'clock in the morning to get to work on time. So he goes to bed at 8, and my son sleeps with us. So in order to get him to go to sleep, I will lay down with him and my husband in our bed for my son to fall asleep. And then what I do is I will read my Kindle for an hour and put it, and I usually have that put down by 9 o'clock so that I'm sleeping by like shortly after 9. Um, so theoretically, I should be up by 5, right? But that has not been happening for a while. I would like that to happen again, and I'm going to be aiming to get that going again. But this past weekend, I was sleeping in until 8 o'clock, even when I was going to bed at 9. And not having interrupted sleep or anything like that, just wanting to sleep and sleeping like the dead and having a hard time getting up. So I have a sneaking suspicion that it's medically related, that the medication that I'm on right now for contraception is influencing that, because I'm only in month 2 of using this and I know that my body is still adjusting. So I have a suspicion that it is related to something like that. Um and then obviously like the hormonal fluctuations that happen throughout the month in conjunction with that is going to influence how my sleep is, and all of those things is probably why I've been having a hard time going back to sleep in those last weeks. Anyways, um but even with that, haven't been feeling my best, haven't been making the best decisions. Um my step count has been low because I just haven't been making the effort to put in my steps, whether that's going outside or heading on my treadmill or anything like that. I have my good days where, yeah, like I'm like, okay, I'm gung ho. I need to like move my body or do something. And then I'll start my day with tracking my foods and stuff like that. But then by the next day, like I'm off of it again. So there's no consistency there. And this is where like I understand where my behaviors are coming from and why they're being influenced because of my sleep. Um, but this is also the point where I would be like, okay, Jacqui, like you need some accountability here. Like you have no reason. No, there's absolutely no reason to not get up when you're sleeping like that and do something for yourself. And I think that's where I've also kind of fell off the wagon a little bit, was that I was doing really well at getting up and doing something first thing in the morning. Um, and I kind of lost my focus on that in terms of like why I was doing that. And something recently popped up in my feed where someone was like, um what have you do you start your day off with something for yourself? And I was like, ah, there it is. That is why I get up early in the morning, to do something for myself so that I can show up better the rest of my day and I can feel good and all of these things. And even though it's hard as fuck, I know that it's worthwhile to do, even if it means showing up tired and just getting it done. But it sets the tone for the rest of my day, and I know from experience that it makes me feel so much better than what I have been doing these last few weeks. So this is essentially myself taking accountability for the fact that like I have not been making the greatest decisions. I have not been showing up in the way that I know I should show up. Um, so now what's the next step? What do I need to do next to make sure that I can try to move the needle forward, be 1% better, do the things that I know I need to do and that I know that are going to make me feel better. So at this point, I'm at this point, like as I said, I don't have any excuses for how I've been behaving. Like I've been sleeping well these last few nights. I've just been oversleeping. Um, and I am recognizing and bringing awareness to the fact that choosing to oversleep is not in alignment with how I want to feel. It's not making me feel great, even though theoretically it should. It's not making me feel great. When I oversleep, then I still feel groggy, and it's just like, again, still harder to make decisions that I want to make. Um but when I'm oversleeping, I'm also skipping out on starting my day with something for myself, like getting down to my gym and doing a workout or doing a walk on my treadmill or something like that. So I'm not setting the tone of the day in the same way that I essentially want to. Um, and I'm also just kind of like putting off my workouts. I'm prioritizing other things. But these other things are more or less for other people. They're not something that are directly for myself. So I'm bringing awareness to that. I'm reminding myself of that. And going forward with this week, I'm like, okay, we're going to get back into this because we know from experience it's a lot better to have that kind of routine than the routine that we've currently been having. So again, a lot of this like kind of self-coaching is about like nailing down the behaviors that are making us feel shitty, nailing down the pieces that we know that we can improve on, like identifying the pieces of our routine that are not working for us and that actually maybe felt good for a couple of days, but over the long term have not been feeling as good as what we were doing prior. Recognizing too that this is all hard. It's hard to wake up and feel like you overslept. It's hard to wake up and know that you had broken sleep, but doing that for the long term is going to make everything even harder, and it's going to make everything else even harder. It's going to make being a coach even harder. It's going to make being a mom even harder, where yeah, it's hard to get up at 5 o'clock to work out, but it sets the tone for my day and makes the rest of my day easier. So I'm talking through this on the podcast, but this is also me talking to myself. So, and reminding myself of these aspects of like why I was doing what I was doing and why it was working so well. And again, like it's hard. So, as of this week, yeah, it's going to be like we need to keep reminding of ourselves of that. And that for those first few mornings of getting up at 5 o'clock are going to be hard AF, but it's going to be worthwhile when it gets easier again and feels good and we're reminded of like why we were doing what we were doing. So yeah, there's a lot of like self like um self-awareness, taking accountability of like what we've been doing and what hasn't been working. Calling yourself out on your bullshit, like saying, Jacqui, this is not working. This is not making us feel good. Why are you doing this? It's not worth it. Um, Recognizing what was working for us and why, and what is more realistic in terms of how to juggle all of these different pieces of our life. It is more realistic for me to get up and get a workout in than it is to not work out and just wait for it to happen throughout the day. And this is something I remind my clients of a lot too, is like if you're not getting your workouts in, try to do it right in the morning if you can. Like it's not always feasible for everybody, but um if we get it done and out of the way, we feel good. We've taken care of ourselves right in the morning, and it just sets ourselves up for an easier day. Um, there was also another piece that I wanted to like talk about too, and I forget what it was now. Um, so yeah, it's not to say that I have completely quote unquote fallen off the wagon. I still drink my water. I was still like paying attention to my digestive system a little bit more. If any, for me, when I am like really in the depths of like hardship or like feeling like this is really hard, my water is like the one thing that is always consistent for me. Um, I guess it's just like habit that I've had for many, many years and it just comes really easy for me. And then my steps are usually number two. But even my steps have been low these last couple of weeks and I don't love it. And I notice how it makes me feel. And it's because of that, like, and that is something that really drives me is how I feel. When I recognize that, I haven't been doing X, Y, and Z and I feel like not optimal and not my best self, that's a huge driving factor for me to be like, okay, like we need to stop doing that because we're not feeling great about it. No, we're not only not feeling great about it, it's not making us feel good. So we need to stop doing that. It might have felt good temporarily, but we've been doing it for too long. It's now time to like step it up and um face reality and turn things around to feel better again. So I hope this was like helpful because this is just like me trying to like play out how my brain works when it comes to like coaching myself and like recognizing all the pieces of my life that are kind of like influencing how I'm behaving, because that's the complexity of it, right? Even with each client, we look at these different aspects of their life and what's going on and how it can influence their behaviors and how they show up and all of these things. Um, but there's a complexity to it. Everybody's a little bit different. Everybody has different mental capacity from a mental or an emotional standpoint to be able to really comprehend all of these aspects. It takes practice to comprehend all of these aspects and to really see how they influence you, or like getting to understand yourself and how these pieces influence you. So it just takes time. It really is a skill. And as I've said many times, like understanding nutrition, knowing how to work out properly, establishing habits, like all of these things are skills that you have to build on top of the fact that you're building self-awareness. You're under trying to understand where these behaviors are coming from or how they influence you in particular. Also your mindset and recognizing like how your thoughts are framed and what kind of stories that you're telling yourself. It's all like a part of like this big puzzle piece that is your lifestyle. And being able to take a step back and understand how it's all kind of like coming together or not is a skill that takes time to really learn and understand. So that's the benefit of having a coach, is that having that person to help you put those pieces together and to help you see where they're coming from or how they might not be fitting in or how they might be fitting in. And like, yeah, it's always that like that person on the outside looking in, right? And to who kind of like when you're in the thick of it, I always think of it as like a sports like playing a sport, right? When you're in the game, the perception that you have as a player while you're playing is very different from what the audience sees, right? So when you're playing, like I used to play hockey, and you have a certain perception when you're in the thick of it. You're in the thick of the game. There's like only certain things that you can see. But somebody who's watching from the audience and who's yelling at you to like make the pass or to like see the other person or whatever, they're on the outside looking in. They see the whole picture. Where when you're the player, you don't. You're in the thick of it. You're playing, you're living it. That's the same as your life. Like you're the player in the game, your coach is in the audience. So it's a good way to kind of see things and to understand how that might be helpful to you, because your coach is going to be able to bring you different perspectives that you're not going to be seeing while you're in the game. So, anyways, I think that's a good place to end off there. That was a good one. Um so yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for listening. If you are a longtime listener, you know, for the whole like 5 months, 4 months that I've been doing this, please leave a 5-star review. It's very, very helpful for my podcast to be seen and all of that stuff when I have good reviews on this. So if you enjoy listening, please subscribe, give us a 5-star review, and all of those awesome things that are just like very simple to do, but are also are so, so helpful for somebody like me. Um, we also, I'm just going to like leave this here as well. This week before my birthday, I am having a promotion for my one-to-one coaching. I don't do these very often anymore. The last one I had was in Black Friday, and I don't even think I'm going to be continuing with Black Friday promotions anymore, just because like I don't find that they do great. So yeah, this might be either the only promotion I'm doing this year or the maybe one out of two promotions that I'm going to do this year for one-to-one coaching. So take advantage. It's lasting until Sunday. Sunday the 23rd or 24th, I think it is. And what the promotion is that if you book your call this week and you sign on with me as a one-to-one coaching client, you're going to save $70 per month for every month that you are a coaching client with me. So it takes the price down from my regular price is $240 a month, but it will bring it down to $170 a month. So pretty big savings there. Take advantage while you can. Probably might be the lowest that you're going to see this in a while. So definitely take advantage, especially if you are feeling like you are needing some guidance or you just want to like level up your fitness, get ready for summer. Like the spring months are starting to hopefully are around the corner. But this is definitely a good time to like really focus on these things. While we're kind of like in a downswing of life and lifestyle and all of that stuff. Okay, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you later.